don't need it. I get it in a minute. All right, beautiful people. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. Betwabu, Betwabu. Sieme, or Sawubona. I see you. All of those are greetings. Betwabu is acknowledging that you're house of the Father. I'm the house of the Father. Sieme is another greeting for hello, as well as Sawubona. Sawubona means I see you. I acknowledge you. Sawubona. Good morning, James. Good morning. All right, y'all. We are on day 155. Like I said, it is Monday, May the 25th, 2020, and we are continuing reading the missing chapters of the book of Esther, and we're in 10, 11, and 12. All right, like I said yesterday, while we're reading through this, it sounds a whole lot like Esther, and some of the chapters or some of the paragraphs are almost word for word. So what I believe happening is they actually took Esther, like this was it, like this right here is where it says additions to Esther. I think the additions to Esther is actually the entire book of Esther, and what's in Esther is in the additions of Esther, and they actually took that out of here, separated, took what they wanted out of the original scroll and made it Esther, and they just called these the additions, but it's not. I think this is the entire book. That's why what we read in Esther, we're actually like reading over again, plus what we had not read before, which was apparently always there in the original letter. All right, so today we are reading 10, 11, and 12. All right. On that night could not the king sleep, and he commanded to bring at the Sefer of records of the Chronicles, and they were read before the king. And it was found written that Mordecai had told of Bigthan and Teresh, two of the king's chamberlains, the keepers of the door, who sought to lay hands on King Artaxerxes. And the king said, "What honor and dignity has been done to Mordecai for this?" Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, "There is nothing done for him." And the king said, "Who is in the court?" Now Haman was come into the outward court of the king's house to speak to the king to hang as Mordecai on the gallows that he had prepared for him. And the king's servant said unto him, "Behold, Haman stands in the court." And the king said, "Let him come in." So Haman came in, and the king said unto him, "What shall be done unto the man whom the king delights to honor?" Now Haman thought in his heart, "To whom would the king delight to honor more than myself?" And Haman answered the king, "For the man whom the king delights to honor, let the royal apparel be bought which the king uses to wear, and the horse that the king rides upon, and the crown royal which is set upon his head. And let this apparel and horse be delivered to the hand of one of the king's most noble princes, that they may array as the man withal whom the king delights to honor, and bring him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaim before him, Thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delights to honor." Then the king said to Haman, "Make haste, and take at the apparel, and at the horse, and what you have said, and do even so to Mordecai the Jew, that sits in the king's gate. Let nothing fail of all that you have spoken." Then Haman took the apparel, and at the horse, and arrayed as Mordecai, and brought him on horseback throughout the street of the city, and proclaimed before him, "Thus shall it be done unto the man whom the king delights to honor." And Mordecai came again to the king's gate, but Haman hasted to his house mourning and having his head covered. I bet. And Haman told Zeresh, his woman, and all his friends everything that had befallen him. Then said his wise men and Zeresh his woman unto him, "If Mordecai be the seed of the Jews, before whom you have begun to fall, you should not prevail against him, but shall surely fall before him." And while they were yet talking with him, came the king's chamberlains, and hastened to bring Haman unto the banquet that Esther had prepared. Chapter 11. So the king and Haman came to the banquet with Esther the queen. And the king said unto Esther again on the second day at the banquet of wine, What is your petition, Queen Esther? And it shall be granted you. And what is your request? And it shall be performed, even to half of the kingdom." Then Esther the queen answered and said, "If I have found favor in your sight, O king, and if it please the king, let my life be given me at my petition, and my people at my request. For we are sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, to be slain, and to perish. But if we had been sold for bondmen and bondwomen, I had held my tongue, although the enemy could not countervail the king's damage. Then King Artaxerxes answered and said unto Esther the queen, Who is he, and where is he that dared presume in his heart to do so? And Esther said, The adversary and enemy is this wicked Haman. Then Haman was afraid before the king and the queen. And the king, arising from the banquet of wine in his wrath, went into the palace garden. And Haman stood up to make request for his life to Esther the queen, for he saw that there was evil determined in him by the king. Then the king returned out of the palace garden to the place of the banquet of wine, and Haman was fallen upon the bed where Esther was. Then the king said, Will he force the queen also before me in the house? And the word went out of the king's mouth. They covered Haman's, as the word went out of the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face. Remember, y'all, when y'all hear me say remember I'm reading from the Sefer. So in the original scrolls, they have Yahuwah's mark, the Aleph and the Tav, and they pronounce it I'm sorry, that piece of hair is just bugging me. It's and here it reads ETH, but it also has in the modern Hebrew script the Aleph and the Tav, and right beside it has Eth. So like I said before, it was all through the original scrolls and writings, and they didn't know what to do with it, so they just took it out all together. That's how you can tell the authenticity of some of the books, because that Yahuwah's mark is there. And also in here they put it back in all of the books that it was taken out of. And Carbona, one of the chamberlains, said before the king, Behold also the gallows 50 cubits high, which Haman had made for Mordecai, who had spoken good for the king, stands in the house of Haman. Then the king said, Hang him thereon. So they hang Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. Then was the king's wrath pacified. Last chapter for the day, y'all. Chapter 12. And actually tomorrow will be the last day of reading the missing books, as it is 15 chapters. So we'll read the last 3 tomorrow. But today, chapter 12 has 12 verses. Then we'll be done. On that day did the king Artaxerxes give at the house of Haman, the Jews' enemy, unto Esther the queen. And Mordecai came before the king, for Esther had told what he was unto her. And the king took off his ring, which he had taken from Haman, and gave it unto Mordecai. And Esther set Mordecai over the house of Haman. And Esther yet spoke again before the king, and fell down at his feet, and besought him with tears to put away the mischief of Haman the Agagite, and his device that he had devised against the Jews. Then the king held out the golden scepter toward Esther. So Esther arose and stood before the king and said, If it please the king, if I have found favor in his sight, and the thing seem right before the king, and I be pleasing in his eyes, let it be written to reverse the Sepharim devised by Haman the son of Hammedatha the Agagite, which he wrote to destroy the Jews which are in all the king's provinces. For how can I endure to see the evil that shall come unto my people? Or how can I endure to see the destruction of my kindred? Then the king Artaxerxes said unto Esther the queen, and to Mordecai the Jew, Behold, I have given Esther the house of Haman, and him they have hung upon the gallows, because he laid his hand upon the Jews. Write ye also for the Jews, as it likens you, in the king's name, and seal it with the king's ring. For the writing which is written in the king's name and sealed with the king's ring may no man reverse. Then were the king's scribes called at that time in the 3rd month, that is, the month Sivan, on the 23rd day thereof, and it was written according to all that Mordecai commanded unto the Jews, and to the lieutenants and the deputies and the rulers of the provinces which are from India unto Cush, 127 provinces, unto every province according to the writing thereof, and unto every people after their language, and unto the Jews according to their writing and according to their language. And he wrote in the king Artaxerxes' name, and sealed it with the king's ring, and sent Sepharim by post, and horseback, and riders on mules, camels, and young dromedaries, wherein the king granted the Jews which were in every city to gather themselves together, and to stand for their life, to destroy, to slay, and to cause to perish at all the power of the people in the province that would assault them, both little ones and women, and to take the spoil of them for a prey, upon one day in all the provinces of King Artaxerxes, namely on the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar. And that, my beautiful people, is our reading for today. That was the missing chapters of Esther. We read 10, 11, and 12. Tomorrow we'll read the last 3, 13, 14, and 15. And also, if you notice, I'm not sure if you paid attention to it, but remember how it points out that the king gave Esther Haman's house, meaning all his estate and all the rulership, everything that came under Haman's name, he gave it to Esther. Esther gave it to Mordecai. Remember when Haman, he wrote all this up. He had the power and authority of the king and able to seal in the king's name whatever he wanted to do. He approved to the king. He said, yep, go on, write all that, send it out, whatever. So with that house and with that rulership that came with Haman's house and his position, it was given to Mordecai. So Mordecai was able to overrule, not necessarily overrule, but he wrote a law superseding the previous one that had just been written. Like the king said, he can't reverse what was done. Although you can't reverse what was done, you can write a law that supersedes the previous law that you can't overturn. So it's almost like it's almost like the laws of aerodynamics, right? You know how planes fly? You can't, like, and for the sake of conversation in terms of what people think is real and what's not, like you have, what is it, like gravity. What goes up must come down. You can't reverse that, really, but you can operate in a law that supersedes that allows the plane to stay in the air without falling. Of course, there's other things that go with that, but it's laws that supersede other laws that allow it to go in that direction that you're getting it to go, if that makes sense. You know, without getting into too many technical terms, y'all get what I'm saying. So with the house of Haman that Mordecai took over, he was able to supersede the previous law that he had written out to destroy all their people, for the people now everywhere to get what they could to stand up and fight. So those who were going to follow the previous law, if you would come, they can stand up and now fight back. He essentially gave all the slaves the authority and the power to fight back, and y'all weren't going to get in trouble. You may save your life at whatever cost it takes, and you will not get in trouble. If this law, when this day comes, and those that want to keep to that, if they come, you are given authority to fight back. You know, some of them that were, it says they did, and we know in the book of Esther, they decided not to, they just backed down, but some did, because we know, and it tells you how many were killed on that day. And I think also the next day as well. So there were some people that came and they tried it, and they got to fight for their life, you know, but most of them back down, they didn't, you know, and all of Israel was saved in that day. So with that being said, beautiful people, all right, it is Monday, May the 25th, 2020, day 155. Like I said, we read the missing chapters of Esther 10, 11, and 12. It's time to fight back, bruh. All right, so let's go ahead and do the blessing for today, which is found, you know where, Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, May Yahuwah bless us and keep us. May Yahuwah make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon us and give us his peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right, beautiful people, I love y'all. I will see you bright and early in the morning. Peace.